a recent project of mine was to paint 4 of these cement hoppers, and today I'm going to finish up that project by making some Sergent Engineering couplers for them. So I thought I'd make a video tutorial to show you how it's done. It's actually quite simple, and it really adds to the look of the car. You can get these couplers as pre-assembled, but that's pretty expensive, so I get the kits and assemble them myself. There's 5 parts to the couplers. There's the base, which fits right in there on the assembly jig. Then you take the ball bearing, which is what makes the coupler work, and you drop it into the base, just like that. Then you take the knuckle, and this can be tricky sometimes. Get that right, I missed again. Right in there. Nope, I missed again. There. Just like that. Then you take some CA, and I've got this little tiny spout on my bottle, and you put a little bit of glue. I don't know how well you can see this in the video, but you put a little bit of glue all the way at the end, down here, as far from the moving parts as possible. And then you take this piece and press it into place. Then you set it aside and work on the other one. Sometimes you have to scrape a little flash out of the inside of the coupler, and that's true with this one. Just take your hobby knife and just scrape it out. So you put that into the assembly jig. Ball bearings could be tricky sometimes. Let's try these ones. Then the knuckle. And finally, the base, the bottom piece. We're actually assembling the couplers upside down, so the top section that you glue on last actually ends up being the bottom. So from the top of the coupler, it just looks like one piece. And just press that into place and set it aside to dry. And we'll need a spring for that one too. Now once you've assembled the couplers, you have to break them in. The break-in process is kind of simple, but it can get tedious sometimes. So what you do is all these surfaces that meet another coupler, so the knuckle and the inside faces, all need to be covered in graphite. So you just take a pencil and color everything. Well, it's hard to show in the video, but you can see the surfaces that I colored, and the knuckle and the inside, and I haven't colored this one yet, but you can see how See how it's all still that brown color. So now I'm going to color this one. Now that I've colored both, I need to test them out. And that's actually quite simple. The way they work is the steel ball bearing that we put in them moves up and down inside the coupler. So right now the coupler is right side up, and the steel bearing is at the bottom, and the knuckle is locked in the closed position. When you turn it upside down, the ball bearing moves to the top of the coupler, and the knuckle is free to open up. So you take the two couplers, you hold them upside down, and you just open and close them repeatedly to work the graphite into all the moving parts. Then, after you've done that a few times, you flip them over so the knuckles lock, and you just rub them up and down inside each other. First pushing into each other, then pulling out. And now you've broken in the couplers and they held up, so it's time to install them on the car. They install just like any other coupler on the car. So you have to take the truck off on this car. Take the truck off, set that aside. Take the coupler box off. I painted these cars with the coupler box in place. I haven't taken them off yet, so I have to pry them a little. There. You can see the original color of the car in there. So you make sure the coupler is upside down, put it into place. You can tell it's upside down because of the cover. When it's right side up, it has that little dot in the middle where the cover goes in. But when it's upside down, you see the whole piece. And then you take your spring, and the easiest way to pick up the springs is with a hobby knife or a flathead screwdriver. So you take the spring, and James showed us how to do this in the last tutorial, and you just put it into place in that notch inside the coupler. Now this isn't a centering spring. What the spring does is it provides resistance for the coupler to move. So it doesn't just swing freely. It still swings around, but it's a little more stiff, so it holds its position. So then you put the coupler box back on, and the spring isn't necessary. If you're having trouble with the spring, just don't bother with it. And just close it all up, and then do the same thing on the other side. Now I'll show you how these couplers work. The steel ball bearing inside them, when it's down, locks the knuckle closed. When it's up, the knuckle is free to swing open. You can't just turn the coupler upside down like I did in the break-in process, so you can get these magnetic wands from Sergent Engineering. There's a magnet on both ends and a pin on one end. So to open the couplers, you take the side with the pin, you hold it over the coupler, and the magnet pulls the ball up, and you use the pin to open the coupler. You do that on both sides. You only need to open one. And then, I don't have a locomotive here on my workbench, so I'm just going to use my hands, but move the cars together. The knuckles close, and the coupler locks into place. Steel ball bearing falls back down and locks everything closed. So then to open the couplers again, you hold the wand over the couplers and just opens up. It's actually quite simple. I think the car looks a whole lot better with the Sergent couplers. They look a whole lot more realistic, and they work just like the real thing. The only problem with these couplers is they're not KD compatible, and so you have to convert over your whole fleet. But I've been slowly working on that. These are an Athearn model. I painted them with Polyscale light undercoat gray, and then decaled them with the Highball Graphics decal set. It's pretty straightforward. After I finished that, I weathered them lightly with my airbrush. These cars are actually pretty clean in real life, so I just misted them very light with railroad tie brown. I don't even know if you can see it in the video, but they're just dirty enough to look like they actually go somewhere. Most of these cars don't have conspicuity markings in real life. A few of them do, so I painted one of the cars with them, and the other three without. And that's all. It was a pretty simple project overall, just painting and decaling.